So we were introduced to a new character named Lectern, and this character has happened to come upon some valuable properties through a series of fortunate events. And we also learned that he is a ordinary big shot and a G-Type 1, granting him electrokinesis. And it also seems that he uses his wealth, or used his wealth, to purchase some equipment that amplifies his ability in the form of some sort of like some gauntlets that I guess increase the power of the electricity he conducts. So Lectern has an issue. Someone owes him money, and that someone is a renowned party animal lowlife named William White Knight. Now, William White Knight is actually a user-submitted G-type created to mirror the mysterious god-tier player character Black Knight, who we've yet to have seen. I think he was created to troll. But we can assume William White Knight has yet to awaken his powers. He alludes to this by talking about a feeling that he has, a feeling like he used to be more in a past life, referring to probably bouts of deja vu of past cycles. However, his current lifestyle pales in comparison to that. He's in trouble right now, because Lectern's whole goal, and this is Lectern's story phase, Lectern's whole goal was to get his money back. And he does a very light goal. So remember, with your story phases, it doesn't have to be something, grand. It can be something as small as getting your money back. I thought that was a good intro for Lectern to kind of show who he is. So that's his whole goal, was to get his money back. And he does. I felt starting the episode off with Lectern would be a good way to not only shine more light on Galgan District contract culture, but also lead us into Looper, Marshall, and Jacob, which is why they are at this particular club. It is the club owned by Lectern, and it happens to be Jacob's go-to spot for chilling in between contracts. So in scene 2, we are then shown Looper, Marshall, and Jacob. These three took on the Crime Bloat event, where they decided to collectively cripple the criminal organization. With Looper's intel, Marshall's resource, and Jacob's tool set and mercenary bonus, these three were more than prepared for it. So I used this moment to introduce the Bulwark Network as well, a player-created secret network for do-gooders. I think it was created by Marshall, like the player of Marshall. Which is why his character was so concerned about it and wanted to know more about it. So the group plans an ambush on a criminal rendezvous in order to sabotage their meeting and capture Noxious Swang for interrogation. So another example, of how the event is Crime Bloat, but depending on what characters take on the event, it can change the entire event pretty much. So now this is something about Noxious Swang, because that's a guy that Looper's been after for a while, and that's what's driving Looper. The whole plan is to capture Noxious Swang for interrogation, and in addition to crippling them. I wanted to bring some international affairs into the mix, which is why we are seeing Nebu get involved, and soon more. Maxima and Yin Nagamoto are the first pure-blooded Dorinthian player characters, and they are right on time. And what I mean is, they're the first characters that are actually from Dorinthia. I mean, Makai Funoichi's from Dorinthia, but remember, Makai, he's half Nebu, half Dorinthian. But these two are from Dorinthia, and they're bad guys. So I thought they were right on time, especially with this event, Crime Bloat. It's almost guaranteed that any Dorinthian criminal that's in Haven can likely be tied to the Nagamoto's crime family. Maxima Nagamoto, she runs a criminal organization, all the crime families in Dorinthia. So it's pretty big. So their goal is to get integrated into Haven's criminal networks, and that's when they hear of all the crime happening and thought this was a good opportunity. So with trade agreements and Maxima's tact, this will be done. She has the skill to run an organization. She has the mental telepathy. This is her alley. This is what she does. So she's also coming over to Haven to get in on all of this. And with them, they bring a mighty, mighty bargaining chip, the Fist of the Endless. More on that later. But in the next scene, we then catch Shiro again in the subway handling business. So because one of Shiro's main abilities is to create clones, I'm actually allowing him to really maximize his story phase submission, making it so he can be in a lot of places at once. R-Type can also make clones, but that's just a subset of his energy manipulation ability. His ability is energy manipulation. He makes energy clones. And he has a perk that allows him to see some things in other events because he has clones. But, the difference, this is a good example of showing you like how much emphasis goes on abilities when they are the main ability. Shiro's main ability is clones. Therefore, he could do something like be in a lot of places during the story phase, whereas R-Type is not. So I wouldn't allow R-Type to do something to this extent, because then that just takes away from someone who actually has clones. So just use that for an example. But anyway, in this collection of scenes, we see Shiro training by bounty hunting, and we also see him investigating the disappearances of G-types still. He's investigating this every day. And he goes into some catacombs. Oh, he spots G-types being loaded into vans. Yeah. He spots G-types being loaded into vans and then abducted by ships, which is the foreshadowing of coming events. Shiro actually loses his role against Switchblade, which is why his training went so rough. Ultimately he was training, therefore challenging himself. So I did roll just to see how it would turn out. And that's why he went into crane stance. That's not his best. Shiro, none of his abilities is, at least I don't think it is combat. No, it's not. It's elemental manipulation, clones, and some other shit. But that's why he went into a martial art stance, because that's something he's trying to improve. That's why he's training. And it went bad. But because he was training, death wasn't ever really a factor. I was really more so rolling to see how his training would go. But I wanted to display his struggle by showing all of those dead Shiro clones. So when that subway door opened and you saw those dead Shiro clones, that was just to symbolize that, he got bodied a few times trying to fight Switchblade and crane stance. And by the way, Switchblade, crane stance, that's a new hero. We got somebody make crane stance. But Switchblade is a player submitted villain. I actually think he was created by the person who created Makai. So that was a player created villain named Switchblade. He's in the wiki. So I thought that was fun to kind of get him in there. In the next scene, we are then introduced to crime boss Jace Oxen and several other gangs. Jace Oxen is there to make the deal with the Dorinthian crime families who are on their way and retrieve the Fist of the Endless that he'll use to rule the crime world. So he's already pretty much a big shot, but with that fist, it's over. And he's pretty much given everyone a chance to, ally with him before he gets it. However, Dravko Maz was also there for the same reason in regards to, taking everyone over. And the glove, the Fist of the Endless, was really just a bonus. He ends up finding out that someone else is coming. He's like, hey, I'm running this shit now. Introduce me to the people you got coming. So Dravko won. And because he won, he then takes over the gangs just before Maxima and Yin Nagamoto arrive. And because Maxima and Yin's goal was to become a supplier, not take over and strong arm everyone, it was just to become a supplier. So Drav's goal was to take over. So I didn't really feel like their goals conflicted with each other, and so it kind of melded into one and they became partners. However, I still rolled only to see who gets the better end of the bargain. which easily went to Maxima. Brute force, is never the end all be all. And it's, all about the approach and what your character does and the skills you're using and the circumstances. So Maxima found an entry and took it while staying in her lane safe. So I'm not sure if her and Yin with the rank of average could have taken on Jace, Drav, all the gang support that they had. But they didn't need to, and that wasn't their goal to begin with. So this is when we see the ambush occur, and it's commenced with an attack that pretty much sets the tone for the whole battle. The Smoky Bear. The Smoky Bear was some artillery designed specifically for this scenario. Because Jacob is a firearm master and mercenary, it's justified that he has access to a variety of weapons, which allowed me to come up with something that could get the job done. So, that's why you shouldn't never really get caught up in, the powers and stuff, because if you lose the dice roll, you lose. I'm gonna find a way to right your loss. And in this instance, it was something that was able to work its way past all the defenses any of them could have defended against. So Drav, choking Maxima, her mind manipulation can't stop from being choked. Choking on something. Yin choking on something. That sounds crazy, but you get what I'm saying. And more on Yin later, but my point is that weapon was designed to win because they won the roll. So therefore I had to write something that would let them win. I rolled Marshall, Jacob, and Looper against Drav, Jace, Max, and Yin, and the good guys won, which is why it played out the way it did. As opposed to a head-to-head death match, I didn't feel that would reflect the clever and experienced direction that Looper was providing, so that's why it was more of an ambush. I did, however, want to get a scrappy scene between Yin and Looper. Now, Yin, I kind of reached, but it can kind of be justified, and it was. But Yin he has self-healing. So what I said was that the Smoky Bear, pretty much his healing kind of adjusted to it, pushed out the fumes, and his lungs kind of reacted in a way that no one else's was. So that's why Yin was kind of able to shrug it off and kind of give Looper some hands. I thought Looper's scrappy survivability, his wardinary physiology, he's already tougher than a normal person because he's a wardinary. So I thought that would be pretty fun to see pit up against Yin's enhanced physiology. He's strong, fast, healing. He's pretty enhanced. So I wanted to include, a brief bout between them two. For whose sake, it's hard to say, but I ended it. The gun used to blow away Drav in the end was a player created piece of technology called the Big Iron, and this was initially supposed to be used on everyone. After Jacob lines them up, I was going to have them line them up, circle them and line them up until they were all on the line, and then shoot and go through all of them, hurting them, maiming them. But I was drunk when I wrote that, and I was like, nah. So I rewrote it when I sobered up. That was way too over the top. But in the last scene, the interrogation was Looper's idea. He wanted to show that even though Looper was becoming sort of a vigilante, he still wouldn't let himself or his allies fall to the dark side. So this was displayed when Jacob flips out on the Wang Gang prisoner, and Looper kind of is like, hey, pulls him off him, stop. The part where Marshall gets a letter from the rat, that's foreshadowing the Bulwark Network and a call to arms by a heroic player submitted NPC, a heroic G-type named Michael Holland. The Fist of the Endless is a powerful item, right? Of course, and it's meant to be. It must surgically be placed on an entire forearm and be done with skill. At least if one were to want to wield, such power. I think it's safe to say that many are glad that it's in their hands as opposed to some other people out there. So in a nutshell, this episode was a great reminder that the underdog can win. And it really comes down to who's prepared, what allies you have, and, what you're writing, the details you're providing. So, Smokeshow.